Well, thank you, Duke, and good morning, all. I'd like to pick up on the conversation that Kemp Mosley started back in November when he shared with us initial feedback on the results of our Gallup member engagement survey that we all did in the fall. Interesting fact, did you all know that 88% of U.S. drivers rate their driving skill level as above average? 88%. Reminds me of a very sweet movie from 30-plus years ago called Rain Man, where Dustin Hoffman plays Raymond, the autistic savant brother of Tom Cruise, despite the fact that Raymond's only driving experience was driving his dad's classic old Buick convertible up and down the driveway. He repeats throughout the movie over and over again, "I'm an excellent driver. I'm an excellent driver." Which brings to mind my personal experience taking our Gallup survey back in the fall. I saw myself going in as an engaged member of North Raleigh. I mean, after all, I attend Sunday services, I participate in study groups, I serve on several North Raleigh committees, I help out on the habitat builds, and on and on and on. Lots of stuff. Now, recall that the Gallup survey is a self-evaluation, 25 questions or statements where you rate yourself on a 5-point scale, 5 being I strongly agree, 1 being I strongly disagree. Now, being the engaged guy that I thought I was, I thought I'd go down the whole 25 questions and fill them in with 4s and 5s. Until not far into the survey, I began to encounter statements and questions like, in the last month, I've invited someone to participate in my church. I take unpopular stands to defend my faith. In the last 6 months, I've talked to someone in my church about the progress of my spiritual growth. And what a wake-up call. These statements were simply not true for me. I could only rate myself, 1s or best 2s on any of these and a number of other questions. Now, Gallup has this algorithm for designating each person who fills out the survey as either to be engaged or not engaged. And Gallup maintains very strict confidentiality on our responses here. So I can't call up Gallup and say, hey, how did I do? What's my rating? But as I think back about all the 1s and 2s that I put on my survey, I know where I came out. There's no way in the world that I would be designated as engaged. See, here's the thing. Not unlike that 88%, not unlike Raymond, I had convinced myself that I was an excellent driver when it came to spiritual engagement. In reality, I'm still sitting in my driveway. I'd never really explored what real engagement was all about. As our beloved senior pastor might say it, I thought I was engaged, but I ain't. By the way, Alex, I've been meaning to ask you, what's the Greek word for ain't? Yeah. Yeah. So, I thought I was engaged, but I ain't. And I'm not alone. Hundreds and hundreds of churches do this Gallup survey every year. And in 2023, they reported that a full 70% of the individuals who filled out the survey were classified as not engaged. Not engaged. That said, we should all want to be more spiritually engaged because, and here's where this gets really exciting, because God seems to do amazing things in the lives of the engaged. Let me explain what I mean here. Gallup research has discovered 3 things about engaged members of faith communities. Number 1, they are more inviting, 10 times more likely to invite someone to participate in a congregation. Number 2, they are more generous with their resources and time, spending 3.5 more time volunteering in their churches and communities. And number 3, and this really is the kicker, they are more satisfied with their lives. They are happier, they are more fulfilled. And that's not just compared to the non-engaged members of their church, but rather to the population at large. They are happier, more satisfied. In other words, engaged members of faith communities are some of the happiest, most satisfied, most fulfilled people on the planet. Period. Does that not just take your breath away? I mean, it does mine. It does mine. Now, to help members like myself who want to be more engaged, Kemp had mentioned 2 areas that North Raleigh is pressing forward on. The first is taking advantage of our small groups as vehicles to grow engagement. Early experiments in this area are already bearing fruit. The second is creating our covenant. And quite simply, what our covenant is simple statements about what we should expect from our church and what our church should expect from us. Plain and simple. We'd like as many of you as possible to be involved in crafting this covenant. Look forward to receiving an invitation to participate in a March 3rd workshop designed to do just that, to create the North Raleigh Covenant. Okay? We've added a third effort that takes us right back to the member engagement survey. The survey questions are actually nothing more and nothing less than a list of behaviors and mindsets of spiritually engaged people. So you could think of each question as sort of guiding you, kind of nudging you, steering you toward what to do. I mean, so the question almost gives you the answer, if you will. To that end, a short narrative for each of the survey questions has been written, where we explore what each question means and why it should matter to us. We'll also show how we rated ourselves, so on that 1 to 5 scale as a church, and suggest specific actions we might take to put the lessons of that question into action in our lives going forward. Every other week throughout 2024, one of these questions and narratives will be featured in our North Raleigh weekly update email. The first of those was included in the email that was just sent out on Friday. Take a look at it. And by the way, huge thanks to Pastor Jen for all of her counsel and assistance in making this happen. So that's the stuff that is happening in 2024 to help us all get more engaged. So here's my bottom line, and I know yours may be different. On my personal engagement journey, I have not been an excellent driver. I've never once had a conversation with one of you about my spiritual growth, or for that matter, about your spiritual growth. I've never been asked, nor asked one of you, how is it with your soul? I've confused being broadly involved with being deeply engaged. There's a difference. Church friends, I have work to do. My Buick still hasn't left the driveway, but there's hope. And my hope is that by taking on board the lessons of these narratives throughout the year, by purposely building deeper connections in my small groups, and by living the covenant that we'll all be creating over the next month or so, that I'll exit 2024 just a little more engaged and a little more connected to this wonderful family of faith that is North Raleigh. And I hold in my heart that same hope for each and every one of you. Thank you so much.